Okay. Alright. This is another raw vlog about the artist way. Um, Recording in my car because despite how hot it's been the last few days, it's very chilly. There might actually be freezing temperatures tonight, so that's fun. Um, but yeah, so I recently finished The Artist Way. This past week was week 12, so that was the completion of the program. And um, bottom line up front, I think it's really great. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a fun motivator to be more creatively engaged, and it was a pretty easy way to integrate more art and creative acts into the everyday life. There are some issues that I had, which not everyone will have, but um, you know, everyone's experience will vary. There is a reason why this book has been highly regarded for a couple decades now. I believe they had the 25th edition, 25th anniversary edition, not too long ago. So, but it seems like from what I've seen, every few years it pops up and is all the rage. But yeah, so The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is this 12-week program, which basically it revolves around two core aspects: the morning pages and artist dates. And in between those two things, every week there are little tasks and assignments that you're asked to do. And I mean that's pretty much it. Um, and I'm working on something right now, but basically it's shadow work for the artist. Um, because in doing your morning pages, you know, you're supposed to write every day, every morning when you wake up, and just do a stream of consciousness narrating. You don't judge, you don't pre-plan or anything, just whatever comes in your head, write it down. And that can be daunting for people. That can be anxiety inducing because there can be things that come up that you may not have thought about before, may not have had the chance to fully process. Um, Things that can lead to life changing decisions or the ending of long standing relationships. Um, but also, like, really good things that can come about it as well. Things that you may not have realized that you've been putting off for far too long, and decide that it should finally be addressed. So it's not inherently a bad thing, um, which a lot of people assume what the term shadow work is, like, evil because of its association with witchcraft and magic. But um, but yeah, it's shadow work for the artist, and Cameron's philosophy is that everybody has an inner artist. No matter what path of life you walk, you have an inner artist that can be nurtured and can be addressed and brought out to express themselves. Um, and that's what the whole program is about, is nurturing the inner artist for everyone. And if you are um, a self-proclaimed artist like myself, I'm a photographer. Um, it's seen as like a recovery program. For me, my art, my photography and videography have really fallen off in recent years, largely because of those back there. As you can see, you can't even see all of them. There's 3 baby seats. I've got 3-year-old triplets. So for anyone who doesn't know, so I talk about this all the time because it's kind of hard not to talk about it. It's a major factor in the way my life functions. So naturally, like I can't function the way that I used to. As an artist, I had so many strange quirks, like having whole rooms dedicated to my studio, which is not a quirk, but staying up until 5 a.m. and just dicking around in my room, just playing really with my equipment, seeing what I can do, experimenting, and figuring out new ways of expressing my ideas. But with kids, especially kids in the 3-year-old stage, which three-nager is probably the most accurate term that I've ever heard. They don't give a damn about your art or your equipment. They will hang from it. They will knock it over. They will rip it. They will pee on it. It will be destroyed in so many different ways, both literally and metaphorically, figuratively, all of it. It's the name of the game, unfortunately. So naturally, I've been feeling pretty negatively about my artwork, about my artistry, and trying to find a way to come back to it. And the Artist Way, I think, was a pretty good method to getting back to that part of myself. It's had me do a number of things that have led to some improvements. It's not a full 180, not yet, but things are gradually turning around, and it is showing me that it's giving me more hope, really, about the possibilities and changes that will come in the near future as my kids get older, and having that extra time to do more of what I want to do and need to do. I will admit I'll definitely do this again, because I did not do it as well as I feel like I should have. Cameron makes a point that it's not meant to be done perfectly. The whole point is to just show up. Show up and do the work and do the best you can. Period. But I did not do the morning pages every morning because, like I said, I'm a parent dealing with early childhood. I'm tired. I'm so tired. I can't get up an extra 30 minutes every morning just to write. And write 3 pages every morning. I definitely did not write 3 pages every morning. Because, there's a time limit, obviously. So, and that's actually one of the things that actually I benefited from the Artist Way. I changed my sleep habit entirely. I used to be a night owl. I mean, I still am. But habitually, I have changed my sleep, and I go to bed every night at 10 a.m., no matter what now. Whereas before, I would stay up until midnight or even 1 a.m. and then wake up at 6 a.m., get ready for work, and then start the day. And that left me feeling really groggy and tired all the time. But I felt like it was the only way for me to do more, because that was a time when I had time to myself. Kids were asleep, wife was asleep. I could go and just like do whatever. Um, but changing my sleep schedule and waking up at 5 a.m., while it's not as much time, not as many hours as it was the other way, I feel more energized, and I feel like I'm able to be more productive because I'm well rested, for one thing. Whereas, kids go to sleep and then I go downstairs and, bang around in the basement from 10 to midnight, and then I have to wake up, like, I feel really tired with those hours that I have at night because, I just got done spending an hour and a half wrestling with three of my children to get them to go to sleep, on top of dealing with the workday, on top of chores, and like, so much stuff to where all I want to do is just relax and not be productive. So, yeah, so I didn't do the morning pages every morning. I made a point, though, to do them every weekday morning. And then on weekends, I slept in. Because, as Cameron states, sleep is probably the number one thing that we all need to make sure that we are well nourished. And I chose to prioritize that on the weekends because I didn't have to get up too early. Kids were sleeping in, wife was sleeping in. It was one time where I got to sleep as long as I actually felt like it. And I did not feel like getting up earlier to write the morning pages was good enough for me as a parent right now at this stage in my life. So, and then with the time limit, I set a time limit for when I wrote, and that's why I didn't always write 3 pages, because being up that early and writing, I would get groggy and I would like fall back asleep mid-sentence, and it would take, like, I got up an hour earlier than what I used to, and I would spend that whole hour just trying to write 3 pages and trying to get myself through those 3 pages. It felt like it wasn't really, like, I wasn't getting anything out of it at that point. And so I made sure to give myself the time to write 3 pages, but acknowledge that there just wasn't enough, like, mentally happening. Like, it's too fucking early. There's not enough material on some days to like put down on a page, even with like stream of conscious writing. It's because I got ADHD, and I don't know, my flavor of ADHD. I always have music in my head at all times when I'm not actively engaging in something. So, so most of those mornings was just like, Yasmin Lacey's Teal Dreams on repeat in my brain, and then trying to like eke out a little bit of a word here and there onto the page. The artist dates I also was struggling to do, because for me, again, my life situation made things a bit difficult. At least during this period of my life, it was a bit hard. I had a lot of life issues that came up. Kids got sick, had to deal with car issues. And I know that with the artist day, it's just a promise to yourself to set aside 1 hour every week to yourself to do anything that can nurture your inner artist. Oh, this sun glare. Change that. Let me fix this. Did it whatever. Anyway, so yeah, it was complicated at times. I still did it as often as I could. And it was a really fun experience. And it really worked well for me because I'm already somebody who thoroughly enjoys being alone, like, as often as possible. That is how I recharge, because I'm an introvert, which I'm sure you can imagine, with 3 kids running around. Not really something that I can indulge in very often. So I didn't do the artist date every week, but I did make sure to give myself a really big artist date. I went to, which was one of the things that happens, I think, in, like, I don't know, week 5 or something like that, is to plan, like, a really big extended artist date, which I did. And it was really, like, nourishing to my soul. I went on a solo trip to New York, to Brooklyn, to see Yasmin Lacey do a concert, as I mentioned her earlier, and it was a really fun 24 hours, and yeah, so I did the best that I could with that. And so that's all to say that I will definitely be trying again at a later date, where I can better commit to these aspects of the program, which is one of my issues that I had. I had a couple. One issue that I have was, this was not Cameron's fault, Julia Cameron's fault, but I had this book on audio, because audiobooks are really the only way that I can thoroughly get through a book in a consistent manner. At home with a physical book, or anywhere really, but mostly at home, because it's only the time that I have to, like, sit and read. It's just constant interruptions. Like, I can't go 5 minutes without someone screaming or being called upon for something, or I'm standing cooking for like 6 hours out of the day because I'm meal prepping like 3 different meals during the weekend. So I have to consume my books through audio form for the most part. And this book, it works decently well as an audiobook, but I would much prefer have had it as a physical copy. One, because I feel like it would have kept me more honest in doing more of the tasks. And 2, because I would be able to, it would serve as a reminder for my tasks. I had to, like, constantly rewind and write down the tasks in my phone, because I was writing them down longhand, but it was, I don't know, it was a lot. I don't know what it is, because there are quite a few tasks, to the point to where it starts to feel like homework, which a lot of people have complained about. And so that's something to just prepare for if you've never done this before. But it wasn't too bad. I definitely had that moment a couple times where I was like, oh my god, there's so many tasks. But yeah, I would highly recommend having a physical copy of the book rather than the audio. So when I do get a physical copy is probably when I'll go through it again. And yeah. But yeah, overall it was a good experience. There are some other books that I've heard of that have a similar goal of instilling creativity on an everyday scale, and making it understood that art is an everyday expression. It's not something that is like one big burst of energy and suddenly you have a Mona Lisa. It's a constant. It's a state of constant movement where it's just a series of gradual enhancements and understandings of yourself and your environment, your surroundings, and how all of that feeds into each other to lead to another piece of artwork that you may create. And understanding that to be an artist and a creative, you don't have to stick to one medium. Creativity and art comes from, in so many different forms, and an artist is not obligated to adhere to a single medium. In fact, it's better to have other art forms that you enjoy outside of your primary one, because that other one may spark some inspiration for your main one. Which, speaking of sparking inspiration, that is one other major aspect of the artist's way, which may rub people the wrong way, some people the wrong way. You definitely need to keep an open mind for it, but it is the use of God as a source of inspiration. And she makes it clear up front that when she is talking about God and the creator, she isn't referring to any single God. She's not referring to the Christian God or Abrahamic or any deity specifically. She encourages everyone to think of God in their own way, in their own unique manner, which appeals most to them. But even then, when I was conceptualizing this creator God on my own terms, in a way that I felt most comfortable with, hearing her, the narrator, talk about God and using the term God, it was still a bit grating to my ears. So I'm not a religious person, so so it's a bit like that part was a little it just made me twinge a little bit every time I heard the narrator refer to God. It felt like almost like a low-key effort of conversion, or converting, or whatever. But I understand her intent, and it wasn't, I mean, obviously it wasn't so much of a drag for me that it made me want to stop, but I can imagine there are quite a few people where it would be like a hard no, because they just can't get past it despite having an open mind. So that's just something to keep in mind, and because the creator and God is referred to quite often throughout the book. So yeah. And then if there's I noticed that a lot of what she writes about in her book is has a lot of relation to Carl Jung. I hope I'm saying his name right. Carl Jung. Yeah, Carl Jung. Either way. So, if there's more interest into like the philosophical aspect of being an artist and shadow work specifically, I would recommend looking into Carl Jung and reading his work, because it seems like this book was heavily inspired by what he has written. So that's something else to take into consideration, um, if you're more interested into that. So, and I've already been wanting to read his work. So, getting through this has been really encouraging for me to actually follow through on that. But yeah, as an artist, um, overall I liked it, and I recommend it. Um, at least I recommend checking it out and seeing if it vibes with you. And if not, there are other ones out there. Um, None that come off the top of my head right now because I've got a terrible memory, but um, there are other ones out there. So, yeah, that was The Artist's Way. That's my review. And if you've done it, feel free to share your experience. If you're interested in it, by all means, ask more specific questions if you'd like.